adoption of the motion that the January 12, 2022 regular council meeting be adopted with additional items for 7B, 12D, and 12E. Do I have a seconder for that? Second by Councilor Proctor.
I have a late item to add, please.
A late item, sure.
Do I need to say what the late item is and then we vote on if, I'm not sure.
I think we
how that-
just deal with that when we get to that part of the agenda, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so I have a late item to add.
Yeah, so I believe when we get to, where is it on our agenda this evening? That'd be item 13. So that's when you'd introduce your late item.
Thank you.
All right, any additional discussion on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. I think at this point, just a brief pause, just check in with Director Coates or Deputy Director Richardson. Any updates on Councillor Savage?
You may be on the phone with him.
Okay, fair enough. Good point. Just a bit rusty on the Zoom calls here. And through the rest of the council, no issues this evening logging on. I'm guessing not, everybody's here, no issues. Okay. All I can suggest at this point, Director Coates or Deputy Director Richardson, it would be to have Councillor Savage come down to District Hall. Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Director Richardson.
Hi, so I just spoke with him. He said that he was able to log in with his phone, but I didn't see him there. So I asked him to give it a try again. And he just said he couldn't find a way to unmute himself, but I didn't see him there. So he's going to try again.
Full screen, yeah. Okay, well, I think at this point, what I'd recommend is that if either Director Coates or Deputy Director Richardson can get a hold of Councillor Savage and just tell him to come down to the District Hall, and we'll just recess the meeting until 6:30. We don't have a large.
Yeah, I
There
appear
is
to
on
be.
my phone.
Speak of the devil.
I'm here by phone. It appears. Yep.
Okay.
So if I could, the only thing is, so he's in as an attendee, not as a panelist. But if I've unmuted him and he's just on a different side, so it should work.
So I can hear everything if you can hear me, and
Yes.
so I won't speak until I'm asked to speak, or I don't know how you want me to put my hand up, but
Well, I'll just call for speakers when we get to motions that we're going to be debating. So,
Yep.
and I'll just add
Okay.
to the speakers list.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. So thank you for everybody's patience. So moving on in our agenda. So we have the consent agenda, so item 7 of our agenda. I'll just make the motion that the recommendations listed for 7A through 7C and the consent agenda be approved. Second by Councillor Gesselbrecht. Call the question. All those in favor?
Yep, sorry, Savage, please.
Oh, sorry. Would you like something removed or are you voting? in favor?
Yes, 7B removed, please.
Okay. So 7B is being removed. So so again, we'll just go back. I'll make the motion that items 7A and 7C in the consent agenda be approved. So do I have a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Gesselbrecht. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Now we're on to 7B. That's being removed. So you prepared to make the motion there, Councillor Savage?
Yes, I had a quick question. This is about the minutes, please. And
Yes.
I just had a quick question for staff, if I may, please. And the situation is Council Gesselbrecht requested a recorded vote for the agenda item to rescind the zoning bylaw amendment 290 at the December 1st council meeting. He was told at that time by staff it was up to council if they wanted a recorded vote. Then Mayor Swain said a recorded vote's been requested. I don't think we need to do a motion. However, in the minutes, Council Gesselbrecht's request to have it recorded was not recorded. So to staff, what is the definitive answer on this policy, please?
So through to Director Coates or
Yeah.
Deputy Director Richardson?
Yes, and I'm at, sorry, I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I don't have my Robert's rules here with me. I know we don't have it within the procedure bylaw. I believe there is something within Robert's rules.
Yes, well, thank you. Yeah, because when I previously requested recorded votes last summer of 2020, it was stated that such a procedure was not in Robert's Rule of Order, and I believe that to be the case, that it's not actually in Robert's Rule of Order. So my request for recorded votes was not granted, but how about we just leave it then, and we can maybe get a definitive answer next meeting, please?
Okay. So through to Councillor Savage, I think really at this point what we're looking at is the correctness of the minutes. And from that's a good catch. My understanding in that meeting, a recorded vote was requested. We did do a recorded vote, and it's not listed as a recorded vote, just says defeated. So I don't know if we need, if staff can just correct the minutes or if we need a formal motion to do so. So through to Director Coates. Or Deputy
So
Director.
currently, if council is making the motion that the December 1st, 2021 regular council meeting minutes be approved instead of as presented, it would be as corrected, adding the recorded vote to bylaw number 290. You did
Okay,
say
so I'll
bylaw
just make
290.
that motion then. That the December 1st regular council meeting minutes be corrected with respect to,
No, be approved
or be approved as
corrected.
and corrected with respect to item 4, bylaw number 290. Listing the, the
Adding
recorded.
recorded vote.
Is there a seconder to that?
Second.
Okay, second by Councillor Savage. Any discussion? And again, this is just about the correctness of the minutes. Okay, so we'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, that's carried unanimously. All right, so that takes us on to the next item in our agenda. So we have public input. So from what I understand, nobody has registered to speak, or is there anybody on the line or is indicating that they would like to speak through to Deputy Director Richardson.
No, nobody has registered. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that takes us on to number 9 in our agenda. So under legislative matters, we have 9A, which is that Councillor Savage's recommendation. So Councillor Savage, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I was instructed by staff or requested by staff to do it this way, that the request was to rescind the second reading of the bylaw and then proceed with my amendment. So I guess that's the way to do it, is to first of all make the motion that second reading of the District of Zoning Bylaw number 180, 2020 amendment, miscellaneous bylaw number 298, 2021 be rescinded.
Okay, and do we have a seconder to that? Yeah, I will second that. Through to Councillor Savage for discussion.
Yes, thank you. The reason for my motion is just as much to clarify process as to prescribe a more reasonable size minimum lot for auto repair. At our last meeting, staff instructed council we should not be making amendments to a bylaw during second reading. Now at this meeting, staff requested me to rescind second reading of the bylaw so I could present my amendment during second reading of it. So that's the first thing, is which one is correct there. And then just to further add, we've made endless motions to amend bylaws during second reading. Some examples: procedure bylaw, zoning bylaw, village south rezoning, amendment to get financial consultant opinion, good neighbor bylaw, recent Dickinson Road rezoning, and so on. So I believe it's procedurally correct for council to make amendments to bylaws during second reading, after second reading, or during third reading. So could we please get a definitive answer on this? That's the first question, please.
Yeah. All right, so I guess the question is being asked through to Director Coates with respect to procedural correctness on when can amendments occur. If you're able to provide an answer, Director Coates, and then Councillor Wilson, I have you as a speaker.
Yes, if you can just give me a minute, I'm just pulling up the procedure bylaw.
Yeah, that's fine, thank you. And while she's doing that, I'll just finish off by saying the reason I'd like to see the minimum lot size for automotive reduced is having some automotive repair in Lantzville helps families with their budgets. It's closer and easier with less wait time to get one's car repaired, and closer means cheaper for towing if the car won't run. And with half-acre minimum, you will likely get the odd auto mechanic home business. With a 2-acre minimum, it's not as likely because I've never seen one on a lot this size, but I'm aware of 3 or 4 actually, which were on smaller lots. 2 were shut down due to the new rezoning bylaw. 1 moved, and then the other one is somewhat as more of a hobby as anything else. So these days. So anyway, that's simply the reason for it. I'm just trying to encourage to have some automotive. We won't have a lot, but at least have some. It's very helpful for the community, I find. So that's about it. And just the other quick thing is I don't see anything in the procedure bylaw that would prohibit making amendments at second reading. It just simply says in the procedure bylaw to consider the body of the bylaw. But if you're considering one's family rules, you can amend them or change them to suit the situation as well as considering them. It doesn't preclude considering them. And the third reading just says may be debated. So to me, considering a bylaw and debating it, neither one preclude making amendments.
So Director.
Thank you for your opinion on that. Yes, we're referring to section 49(3) of the procedure. And I think one of the confusing things is that usually council more recently has been doing combined motions where you're doing first and second reading together. And that's the issue. What we're talking about at this meeting is a motion in relation to second reading only. So the procedure bylaw says that before adoption, a bylaw requires the following readings. And then it says at first reading, the bylaw will be introduced by title only and will not be debated. And so that's very clear that you're just introducing the bylaw, saying, hello, this is a bylaw. You're not debating it or amending it. The reference in the procedure bylaw to second reading said the bylaw will be read by title only unless council resolves that it will be read in whole or in part and to consider the body of the bylaw. It doesn't clearly state it may be debated. So the practice has been, if you're doing a motion about first and second reading, that you would do those and then make changes. I totally acknowledge that there have been some meetings previously, and certainly before this procedure bylaw, where there were amendments done. And again, it is council's bylaw, it's council's procedures. So not our place to question that if you wish to do that. But, there should be some reason that council has this in your bylaw. So definitely at first reading, there shouldn't be amendments, there shouldn't be debate. At second reading, it doesn't speak to it, but the issue for the land use bylaws is that it's going to go to public hearing. And so it's really better if you know you're going to make a change, to make the change now before we do the process to take it to public hearing. So it's important that the bylaw, when we present it to the public for public hearing, that it's in the form that it's at second reading. So that's why we recommend that if council wishes to make a change to this bylaw, that they rescind the second reading, they give it they make the amendment, give it the second reading as amended.
Yeah, and
Would
that's
basically
what
follow
we've been,
the middle portion of the motion that's in our agenda.
Yes,
So,
yes,
yeah.
yes. And, but absolutely true that amendments can occur after public hearing and after third reading, but there's only a limited type of amendments that can occur. If it falls into that other category, and that's more of the planner's issue to review those, and we would usually seek legal advice, then it could result in requiring another public hearing.
Okay.
If the question was, should you be rescinding second reading if you wish to make an amendment to the bylaw at this time? Yes, that would be best practice, because then we would, and then you'd give it the amended second reading. Then we would have a bylaw in its second reading form that we can, send on to MOT and that we can use for our notices and all of those good things.
so just to clarify then, in the future, if we pass first reading and then we discuss second reading, read the motion for second reading, then we can make amendments before we pass second reading.
I wouldn't say it's as clear cut as that, because it doesn't say it can be debated at second, but certainly there's times where it's appropriate.
Okay, well, this is where the confusion is. We were in this exact same boat at December 1st meeting, where we were told we should not be making amendments while before second reading was passed.
Yes, but we are talking, you are going back to a motion that was on the floor in relation to first and second reading. So clearly you can't make amendments when the motion on the floor includes first reading.
So that's what I'm saying. In the future, if we pass first reading, it's done, and then we start discussing second reading, then we can make amendments. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think, if council wants greater clarity on that, we can council can consider an amendment to the bylaw to provide the clarity. If they want to add the words "and will not be debated," that's up to them, council. Or if they want to add the words "and may be debated."
Okay, well, that we can look into that later. So that's, anyway, that's all I have to say on my first part of my amendment at this point. Thank you.
All right, so I'm fine just forgoing my turn as the secondary after Councillor Wilson. Go ahead.
Yeah, just with respect to this motion, open to entertaining it, but I would like to defer this motion back, defer it to the next council meeting or one after, where staff can actually bring a report to council. And that report, I would ask, should include what is Nanaimo. I understand, I think Nanaimo went down to half acre at some point in the last year. I don't know if it was in the last year, but I'd like to know when that change was made, what is within that bylaw. And so I think that, just to get a bit of a comparison, I think would be really good. So I'd like to defer it just to the next meeting and have staff come back with a report.
Second that.
So for clarity, the motions that council refers the motion on the floor to staff to provide a report.
Yeah, a report with including what is in the, what the District of Nanaimo does, what's within their bylaw surrounding automotive repair. And for that matter, I'd also be interested in what the RDN bylaw is for auto repair, and what, given that we're looking at this now, maybe look at Parksville and Qualicum. I think just including maybe 3 or 4 municipalities that are close to us, just to see what they include for automotive repair within their bylaws. It would be prudent.
So including reference to regulations in adjacent municipalities, or
Yes, please.
local governments, because you wanted regional district too. Okay.
Yeah. I heard Councillor Savage, I think he seconded that. Not sure if he, given that I've added other municipalities, if he still does, but there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second
So
by
second
Savage.
by Councillor Savage, and then basically just speaking to the referral motion. I do know Councillor Proctor did put her hand up, but we'll.
I thought I said deferral,
Proctor.
but I don't know if
Pardon
there's
me?
a difference. I said defer to the next meeting. I don't know if that.
We don't use the motion. We don't use the term defer, but it's refer the motion on the floor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So in terms of debate on the referral motion, it's limited to basically the reason for the referral and time, date, the next meeting. So is there anything further, Councillor Wilson?
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, you said for the next meeting?
Well, I don't know if that's realistic. Would you rather?
Yeah, I would rather, because the planner's out of town, and I don't know that.
Why don't we just say the first meeting in February,
Yeah, okay.
if that's more reasonable?
And through to the seconder, again, speaking to the referral motion.
Nothing to add.
Through to Council. Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
No, I agree with the February date. Thank you.
Okay, and through to Councillor Proctor. I know it's kind of tough because the referral motion's being made, but go ahead.
I wanted to speak to the referral motion. I'm very curious to find out how this is working in Nanaimo and what the regulations are in our surrounding communities. I think that would be very pertinent to my decision on this. So thank you for the motion, and I fully support it.
All right, any additional discussion on the referral motion? Okay, hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. So that basically disposes of the rest of the motion that's under 9A. So we're moving on to 9B. So bylaw number 299. That the District of Lantzville water system expansion to the Winds residential area loan authorization bylaw number 299 2022 be given first, second, and third readings. Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Wilson. Discussion. Through to staff, is there anything to, or through to Director Hare, is there anything to add? From what I understand, it's just basically a housekeeping bylaw just so when it comes time for the, for successful on the actual grant application, that we have our ducks in a row. So is there anything to add, Director Hare?
That is correct, Mayor Swain. It is essentially first, second, and third readings are required on the loan authorization bylaw in order as part of the required documentation for the loan application. We will, if we're successful with the grant application, then we will come back to with amendments to possible amendments to this bylaw in the future. But this is simply for the purposes of fulfilling the loan required documentation.
Okay, and just further to that, again, it's simply housekeeping, just to ensure that this council isn't back behind this grant application. So to the seconder, Councillor Wilson, and then Councillor Proctor, and then Councillor Savage. I don't
have much to add, just I think this is great that this is on the floor, and hopefully we can take a step towards water for residents of the Winds.
Okay, and through to Councillor Proctor. And you're muted, Councillor Proctor.
I know that all of council is excited to be applying for this grant. I'm very excited about it. I just have one question through you to Director Hare. Does this commit us to borrowing the money before we find out if the people in the Winds want to pay for their local area service?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Proctor, no, it will not commit us to borrowing in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
At this point.
I fully support this motion.
Any additional speakers on the motion? Okay, hearing none, I'll move to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed? Hearing none opposed, that's carried unanimously. Takes us on to 9C. So this is the Public Works Pickup Purchase 2020-22. I'll just simply make the motion that staff purchase a new pickup truck for the Public Works Department using funds from the Public Works Vehicle Reserve, and further that the 2022 to 2026 financial plan be amended to include 70,000 in the 2022 funded from the Public Works Vehicle Reserve. So second by Councillor Gesselbrecht. Discussion on the motion. Again, this is a pretty straightforward housekeeping motion, so I have really no comment. Through to Councillor Gesselbrecht as the seconder. Any further discussion from the rest of the council? Okay, hearing none, I will move to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed? Hearing none opposed, that's carried unanimously. I'm just going to do a quick sound check on you, Councillor Savage. Are you still with us?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, just making sure. We went 2 motions with no comments, so I just was making sure you're still with us.
Oh, a little hard to function on the phone here, but you won't hear much from me tonight.
All right, moving on to 12A. So we have our mayor and council verbal updates. So we will start to my left. So Councillor Gesselbrecht.
Just simply to acknowledge the snow event that we've gone through over Christmas, and to acknowledge both the Herculean efforts by staff to keep things running, as well as through our contractor, Milner, to keep the roads open, because it was really difficult. We had a lot of snow. I can only speak for my neighborhood here in the Wind Chelsea, that the roads were kept open and they had to come by several times, and people were working late into the night and early in the morning. So full 2 thumbs up for the crews out there.
Okay, and moving, well, I guess we'll go to Councillor Wilson next. My screen shifted, so.
I think Director Spears had his hand up.
He's probably going to say Windley's the contractor.
Yes, Your Worship, through the chair to Councillor Gesselbrecht, the actual contractor that we have for snow removal is Windley Contracting.
I thought I said, didn't I say that?
You said Milner.
Oh my goodness. Well, Rod's a good guy too, but Windley Contracting, there was a little extra work that had to be done. someone's driveway was barricaded, but Windley showed up right away and got it taken care of. So that customer was very happy. Thank you very much.
All right, so we'll go to Councillor Wilson next.
Just a small thing but the highway, if those that are not aware, has two major potholes, and yesterday my daughter was being delivered back home from a play date, and the woman's vehicle went into one of the tires, hit the pothole, and there was 6 vehicles with popped tires. In fact, on the other side of the highway heading south, there's another major pothole that is also causing issues. So yeah, just letting Lantzville residents know, but also maybe through to Director Spears, if you can respond, what happens when it's the highway? I mean, who gets notified, and how quickly does that get fixed? Because they're significant.
Sure, through your worship to Councillor Wilson. The contact for the Highways Department is Main Road Contracting, and basically as soon as someone is aware of a pothole, Main Road would be contacted, and they would respond immediately. So, however, having said that, there's been some potholes that pop up, and quite a few vehicles have been hitting those potholes. The district's been directing a lot of people to the website for the ministry, to an area where you can actually make claims on the ministry website for any damages like that. So if anybody has any questions on that, you can go to their website, or you can just contact one of us at the district and we'll give you the site to go to.
Okay, and through to Councillor Proctor.
I don't have a report this week.
And through to Councillor Savage.
No, thank you.
Yeah, for myself, yeah, the pothole situation is pretty nasty, and I think Main Road is probably feeling a lot of pressure, because I think they're all up and down the island, and especially going towards Victoria, there's numerous potholes and such. So I think they're being run off their feet, fixing all these potholes. And I think if anything, it's more of just a reminder to just the general public just to slow down, and especially if they see something happening on the side of the road and so forth. And I went to a hockey game on the weekend, and we had to travel down the island, and we had text messaging going on and warning of different people on our Team Snap and account and so forth of upcoming potholes. It's quite nasty out there. And for myself, I've never had to hit a pothole at high speed and actually have a flat. I'm sure it's quite terrifying. And actually, I was just watching a Twitter video this afternoon, and someone, as they're on the side of the road in Lantzville, getting interviewed by the media, somebody hit it, and you could hear the tire go, and it maybe even hit the tow truck that was on the side of the road. So it's pretty freaky out there, and I think people just need to be aware that the highways are in a bit rough shape, and just slow down no matter where you're traveling, and be aware, because in these dark, rainy nights, you're not going to see them. On another, I guess, kind of safety thread, we did have our community safety standing committee slated for yesterday. Unfortunately, due to lack of quorum, it didn't happen. However, I would like to bring to the public's attention that we do have the results in for the Dickinson Road informal survey, we'll call it, with respect to reducing the speed down to 30 kilometers per hour. And the results are quite interesting. So I'm not going to get into the results. We'll save that for our next committee meeting. However, invite the public to go on our website and have a look at the results for themselves, and some of the comments and so on. It's quite interesting and lots of really good information. Other than that, I think we did make it through winter relatively well. And I think with the snow conditions, pretty challenging, because it's not the wet, slushy stuff we're used to. And and better at managing. It was, we had a real cold snap and that snow stuck to the road and created all sorts of problems and froze the road and so forth. So that's lots of black ice and other conditions we're not used to dealing with. So hopefully we just get the wet slushy stuff that we're good at managing, and hopefully the dry and cold stuff stays away. So those are my updates. With respect to the next item on our agenda, so we have under 12B grant and aid. So the 2021 report on funding for information. Is there any questions from council to staff? And hearing none, and just basically a reminder to the public who's watching, we do have, I think the closing date is at, through the Director of Codes, is it February 1st for the next intake?
That is correct. The closing date is February 1st. The application form is part of the policy. It's on our website, or they could stop in at Municipal Hall and pick it up.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you know any groups that are looking for, or not-for-profit groups that are looking for maybe some funding, this is the time to get them to submit something, because sometimes we don't have enough applicants, or we just get the same applicants applying year after year. So it's always good to have variety. Moving on to the next item, so C or 12C. So we have the regional growth strategy amendments to allow for industrial lands. So I'll just simply read the motion that the regional district and I will be advised that the District of Lantzville has no comments on the proposed regional growth strategy amendment bylaw number 1615.05/2021 and amendment bylaw number 1615.06 to allow for the lands to be designated industrial, and further that the regional district and I will be advised that the District of Lantzville does not wish to provide further comments on the proposed regional growth strategy amendment for bylaw number 1615.05 and bylaw number 1615.06 2021 following first reading of the proposed bylaw. Is there a seconder to that?
Second.
Councillor Gesselbrecht. And yes, I did hear you, Councillor Savage, but you were a little late. Any further debate or comment on this proposed, or sorry, so Councillor Gesselbrecht, go ahead.
Thank you. This is a application by one of our electoral districts, and I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's electoral district C. In any event, it's an application to change one of their zoning regulations to include some industrial land. Obviously, industrial land provides opportunities for any either electoral district or one of our municipalities with a higher taxation rate and further development. So I was at the RDN meeting when this is brought up, and everyone at the RDN was in agreement with this. So I don't see any reason why Lantzville should vote any different.
Okay, is there any further comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll move to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on now to item 12D. So we have the Lantzville Village South Development Residential Unit. So this is Councillor Savage's recommendation. So through to you, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. I move we refer this to the January 26th meeting as the planner is away.
Okay. I'll second that motion, referral motion to the next meeting. Okay, debate on the referral motion. It's actually not on the floor, so we're just going to refer this agenda item to the next agenda. So for myself, I have no comment. Councillor Savage, any comment?
No.
Okay, and through to Councillor Proctor.
I would prefer that this be referred to staff for a staff report. I don't know if you'll have time to prepare a report by the next meeting.
Okay. Further comment? So through to
I just agree with Councillor Savage and Mayor Swain that it's not even on the floor. Let's just refer this to the next council meeting.
Okay. And through to Councillor Gesselbrecht. Oh, you have no comment. Okay, sorry. I thought you were maybe just frustrated at technology and you couldn't unmute. All right, so any further debate?
So just for clarity, then the motion on the
Referral?
floor is to refer the agenda item, Lantzville Village South Development Dash Residential Units to the next council meeting,
Yes,
not with the staff report. Thank you.
unless, well, yeah, it's not on the floor, so to be amended, so. Okay. All right, I'll move to calling the question on the referral motion. All those in favor? And opposed? That's carried unanimously. That takes us on to item 12E. So we have the 2022 property assessments. So we have Councilor Proctor's recommendations. Go through to you, Councilor Proctor.
My recommendation is that staff prepare and make available to Lantzville residents information that explains how property taxes are calculated and their relationship to assessed values due to concerns regarding increases in the 2022 property assessments in the district and the misunderstandings that the increase will result in property taxes going up significantly.
Okay, and we do have a seconder. So seconded by Councilor Gusselbrock. So discussion on motion. So through to you, Councilor Proctor.
I just think that this is a really confusing topic. It took me a while as a counselor to sort out how the mill rates work with tax assessment and how we collect taxes. So I think the more information that we get out to the public, the better, because education, of course, is one of the pillars of democracy. And staff has already prepared a report and it's been attached to this agenda. I think it's very well written, and the staff has suggested that it goes up on the website and out in the next community update. I think both of those are really good ideas. And I'm also wondering if through you to staff, if there's a place we could permanently put it where people could refer to when they have staff tax questions on the website, so that it will be there in future years when people have questions about their assessments.
The intention was with it going on the website was that it would be going on the tax information page. So it would be staying there. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think it's very well done. Thank you, Director Hare.
Through to Councilor Gusselbrock as a seconder. Okay, through to the rest of the council. Okay, I'll speak to it briefly. For myself, there's nothing. I have no objections to providing information to residents. I think with the motion itself, it's kind of redundant because I think we could probably just authorize staff just to post what's already in our agenda. So the materials that are being received for item 12E, just to simply post that onto the District of Lantzville's website, if that's what council wishes to do. Just throwing it out there. And then the other part is, I don't know if members of council have gone on to BC Assessment's website, but they have tons of useful information videos. And the one video that I've looked at, which is I think quite great, and obviously they've probably spent quite a bit of money on producing these videos. It's basically titled Understanding Property Assessments and Property Taxes. And it's about a 3.5 minute long video, and it's very well done. And they have a series of other educational videos, YouTube videos on their webpage as well. So it's really good information. So I can't recall, I glanced over the one that was in our agenda package, but I don't know if the link for the site is on there. I don't think it was. I saw the gov.bc.ca reference on there, but it'd be nice to see a little, even a link to the BC Assessment webpage as well, into the information videos. That's all I have.
Yeah, currently you can't see it because it's printed, but where it says the e-search, that would link them to the BC Assessment site. But if we could, add to it and make it clear that it is BC Assessment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and through to council, any other members of council before we go second round? Okay, through to Councillor Proctor.
I just wanted to say that I discussed this with staff and their recommendation was that I make a motion. That's why I made the motion. That they were happy to provide the information, but they thought that the motion on record was a good procedure.
Okay. Through to Councillor Gusselbrook.
Yes, there's another facet to this. If you feel that your assessment is way out of line with your neighbors, for example, and that would be the only reason where your assessment would be much higher than your neighbors. Mistakes are made, or for whatever reason, you get a higher assessment. You only have, I believe, until the end of this month, maybe shorter, to apply to the, what's it called? Is it BC assessment, to dispute the value that they've assigned to you. And there's a hearing that you will go to, and you can bring information with you. And I, in my practice as a lawyer, I've seen that done on several occasions where the assessment was in fact reassessed and the value brought down. But I think what's happened now, as we've seen throughout the province, probably the whole country, is that a rising tide has lifted all ships. That everybody's assessment throughout, especially the island here, has gone up. So as long as your assessment isn't out of line with your neighbors of similar houses, you should be okay. Thank you.
And actually, I had a comment similar along that thread of Councillor Gusselbrook, except for mine has to do more with, along the lines of, well, what if you're, a neighbor or somewhere over, maybe a couple neighborhoods over, their house is hugely undervalued. Because essentially what that means is they're not paying their fair share of municipal taxes in the District of Lantzville. So through to Director Hare, is there a reporting mechanism? I've actually done a brief search, but is there an actual reporting mechanism of neighbors that you feel have hugely undervalued assessments?
There is a report that we're able to review where we can see assessments and addresses, but I wouldn't be able to determine from that whether a property is underassessed myself.
But in terms of just like with BC assessment, they have assessors that go out and look at properties and do the reports and do the appeals and so forth. Are you aware of any mechanism that does the opposite? Is kind of like the opposite end of that spectrum, where we're looking at potential properties that are, again, hugely undervalued? Because I know there's a number of them in Lantzville that I would say well under $500,000 of probably what their assessment value is. Not that I'm an expert in this field, but I think the average person or layman would probably be able to look at one property and then amongst some of its neighboring properties and go, wow, that assessment is completely out of whack.
I can follow up with BC assessment in terms of what the procedure of reporting something like that would be if we became aware of it. But municipalities can and are not prevented from contacting BC assessment and making them aware that we believe property is not assessed or is under assessed, as you mentioned. And I can find out from them what their procedure on following up on that would be.
Because like most people probably are aware, you can go on BC assessment and you can search any property within the District of Lantzville. And so for myself, when I look at my property, I'm sure people have looked at my property as well. If I was to go and sell it for the BC assessment value, there's some properties in Lantzville I know I could not go and buy that are assessed $500,000 or more under the property of my house. So it's quite interesting how it works, and I'd be very interested in finding out what you discover, Director here. Because I do believe that, the municipalities should be able to, if people do report properties that potentially are under assessed, there should be a mechanism to deal with that, because essentially those individuals are not paying their fair share of the taxes or the sharing the tax burden. So it may end up only being, $2 or 50 cents or whatever, but amongst everybody, it's about fairness and equity, right? So, all right, so through to the rest of the council, any additional comments with respect to item 12E? Okay, hearing none, I will move to call into question. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, that's carried unanimously. Now we have the introduction of late items. So Councillor Proctor.
I'm unsure of the procedure. Do we vote on if I get to introduce the late motion, or do I
So-
read the late motion?
You would read I believe the correct protocol as our procedure is read the motion, and then we vote whether or not we're going to entertain that late motion. Is that not,
Okay.
is that correct, Director Coates? I do have my council procedure bylaw.
Sorry, I didn't have my, I still have my mute on, sorry.
No worries.
Yes, if it's a matter of an emergent nature that is time sensitive and cannot wait for the next scheduled meeting, or if council passes a unanimous resolution, in which case a written report pertaining to late item must be distributed to the members. So the process would be for the councillor to introduce the topic, and then council would do a motion to accept or not accept the late item. And then if they accept it, then put the motion on the floor and then vote on the motion. It's a two-step.
So it requires a unanimous vote to be put on the floor?
It says,
If it's just majority vote.
well, it depends if it's an emergent nature, time sensitive and can't wait for the next meeting. It's just majority vote. If it's not that, then it says, or council passes a unanimous resolution.
Okay, I don't have a late item. I'm just going to have it placed on the next agenda. Thank you.
Through to Councillor Proctor, if you wish, you could just do a notice of motion.
I'll
you.
think about it.
Through to Councillor Gusselbrecht, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I point of order. If it's simply a motion that Councillor Proctor wishes to bring forward for a future date, that would be under item 14, a notice of motion, so that council is aware of what the motion is and we can consider it before it comes up. Otherwise, you've heard what Director Coates said about a late item where we normally have to vote on it, whether to consider it or not. So I don't know if Councillor Proctor wants to reconsider that or not.
No,
The next-
I withdraw my motion. Thank you.
Yeah, so the next item on the agenda is introduction of notice of motion. So this to be the time if Councillor Proctor wants to do that. I have a notice of motion myself. I'll just read it for the council's benefit, and then I'll send it to staff in text. So that staff prepare a report for council's consideration outlining the necessary works to make the Pierce Woods Marine Park accessible to the public for the spring of 2022. That's my notice of motion. And I'll send a copy of that through to you, Director Coates and Deputy Director Richardson. And Councillor Proctor, would you like to make a?
Sorry, could you just repeat it one more time? That staff prepare a report?
That staff prepare a report for council's consideration outlining the necessary works to make the Pierce Woods Marine Park accessible to the public for the spring of 2022. That's a notice of motion. Councillor Proctor, do you have a notice of motion or are we moving on? All right, so we have gotten through our agenda. So actually, sorry, through electronically, we don't have anybody registered for public clarification. I don't think we
Well,
do.
we do not.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're on to item 16. So we've gotten through our agenda, so I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.